It is absolutely amazing to me how the universe works. I'm a little verklempt myself. Here we have something's calling me. And we're dealing with fears and with heroes and with growth and recognition of life's challenges. And interestingly enough, the whole talk today is about being a hero. And I just think it's very interesting. There are no accidents. There absolutely are not. As many of you know, and I probably mentioned this last month when I was here, my supplemental income to my wonderful, thank you, Social Security check has been for quite some time as a caregiver to older adults, in addition to being a certified Tiny Habits person, and I teach classes at Oasis there. And the caregiving job came to an end about, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago. And at first I thought, I was operating from typical human scarcity. I've got to go find another client right away. I'm missing income and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, thank heavens, something's calling me. And it said, stop. Give yourself this summer to develop the thing that you've headed towards for the past 2.5 years. So for 2.5 years, I've been teaching Tiny Habits, and the more I've taught it, especially to people who are grown-ups over the age of 65. The more I have taught this, the more I would catch myself saying, it's really not about tiny habits. It's about what they lead to. That when you start keeping small promises to yourself, and you start becoming your own cheerleader instead of waiting for others to do it for you, that you end your day with a feeling of satisfaction, with a feeling of accomplishment, with a feeling of inner peace. And it enables you to live a deeply satisfying life instead of feeling diminished and smaller because we can't do everything the same way we used to do it when we were 30 years younger. So, the next step for me was to take this summer and really work on taking it to the next level, which meant building a website, creating another workshop, figuring out how to embed videos into PowerPoint slides and put them on the website, and how to write all this stuff for my CRM, and how to use Canva so I could design my marketing a lot of stuff. And so I have been girding myself up with starting the day, of course, with meditation and journaling and that kind of thing. But in addition to it, I've added on Abraham Hicks. What a perfect thing to add on. I just read that book every day. And another thing that I've been doing is I've been going through, what is this, Mike Dooley. Is anybody familiar with Totally Unique Thoughts? Yeah. Well, I've been getting Totally Unique Thoughts from him for probably 20 years now. And he right now is doing a 21-day workshop where every morning he comes on for 10 minutes and he takes you on this journey towards making all your wishes come true. Perfect, just what I need. And on top of that, I came across another book, and the book it's actually called, the title of this talk, What is in the Way is the Way. So, reading all these things and getting myself up there so I can tackle all these new situations. And Mike Dooley said something, there was, again, all of these things come together this week, just amazing. Mike Dooley stopped in the middle of one of his talks, and he was talking about, asking for help, and that in fact we all have, and some of us like to think of this, and some of us might not, but many of us think, well, there's angels who are all around who are helping us. Even if you just imagine that you're going to be better off. Angels are there to help you. I count on all of mine every time I'm going out on Highway 270. And so we got angels. And we often say to ourselves, and we make this assumption that the angels somehow they're a little superior to us because they can do things we can't do. You know, they can fly everywhere, they can be up, they can move mountains, they can do all kinds of things. In addition to which, I think with many metaphysical teachers, we come in with this metaphor, and just take this for what, you don't have to go along with what I'm saying, but this is just a really curious thought that I've had this week. We come along in metaphysical thought, making the assumption that this is Earth school, and that somehow we are slightly less than because we have to be here to learn all these things. I think some of us have learned enough. Enough with all the lessons and all the trials and all the tribulations. So this is what Mike Dooley said. You know those angels? The reason they're cheering you on is because they didn't have the courage, what you had the courage to do.
Be here.
You were the hero. You are the one who took the leap into the time-space continuum, and you came down here for an adventure.
Yes.
And what if you're not the person who has to learn all these little lessons? What if you are the hero? What if you're the hero? You're not somebody who's lacking something. You are the hero. And just think of it. No hero ever started out being a hero. Think of some of these people who, and the various, because of course we're going to think of Luke Skywalker, right? May the force be with you. He had to face Darth Vader and all the evil empire and the dark side. And when he was in training with Yoda, he had to go into this dark cave. And it's those dark caves that are actually the places where we are sent to because that's part of our hero's journey. And Superman overcame his vulnerability to kryptonite. And then there's Lord of the Rings. Sam didn't start out his journey saying, well, I'm going to save the ring from all those, oh my goodness, all those. I'll never forget when Gandalf was coming galloping down the hill to save everybody. I mean, every one of these heroes, these magnificent stories. Harry Potter, he had to deal with Voldemort. So it's not like they arrived as superheroes. They had to deal with challenges, just as each one of us has to. Suppose it would be that the very things that make us uncomfortable are exactly where the treasure is. That, Roger, even for you, with all this, to realize that now you are carrying on the legacy. So what if those are exactly where the treasure is buried? And what if each one of us is on our own hero's journey? So here's a couple of things to think about. Heroes always are going to face fears. And what Rumi says is, number one, and I'm going to tell you 4 different things about these now. The first thing is about welcoming the fears. And what Rumi says is, welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep away your house, leaving it empty of all furniture, or no furniture, or no house. Still, treat each guest honorably. He or she may be clearing you out for some new delight. Be grateful for whoever shows up, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, number one, welcome the fears. Thich Nhat Hanh has this wonderful little saying that when you recognize anger or fear or these negative emotions, you embrace them and you say, welcome, dear one, I'm here to take care of you, instead of pushing them away, which is what most of us tend to want to do. The second thing is to have curiosity when we're facing these fears. The point that was made in this book, and I think, you know, if you've been in the counseling business or had any exposure to the world of psychology, this is going to sound familiar, but sometimes we need to really take a second look at it. Have curiosity about the things, the challenges and the fears. Approach them with curiosity. And what the author of this book, and the name of the book again, I didn't bring it with me, but the name of the book is What is in the Way is the Way. Curiosity with those fears. And what the author is saying is that many of the things that we have fears and that we hold back on are the exact same fear that we had when we were only 2 or 3 inches tall. Feet. 2 or 3 feet tall. Maybe I was 3 inches, but 2 or 3 feet tall, walking around in this land of all-powerful giants, some of whom were very kind and loving, and some who were cruel and unkind. And we were trying to navigate our way through. And situations that we all ran into left us with a deep, deep longing for certain things. The longing to be liked and to be accepted. The longing to be perfect and never make mistakes. The longing to be the best one. The longing simply to be safe. The longing to be the one in control. The longing to be right. And I was looking at this and I realized, you know, there's part of me that thinks, well, if you're a hero or if you're a person who's goal-oriented, you should be able to just push through and accomplish things and do things. And I realized that in my new venture of really going for it with my business and making it a real business, is that I have to go to networking meetings. And I'm petrified. I, who have had an entire career in sales and marketing, I who became one of the top recruiters for Aflac, picking up the phone and calling strangers, I am terrified of walking into a room of people I don't know and making conversation and starting conversations with them. Easy for me to stand up here and talk to them without that many notes. I don't write everything down. I'm trusting in the Lord. But it's really interesting, and I started to realize I've always sort of resisted acknowledging this fear that I have. But I realized all of a sudden where it came from in my childhood. And I realized that when between the ages of 4 or 5 and 13, all through my childhood, I was one time after another plunged into a sea of people who I didn't know at all. Because first, we went to China and I went to Chinese kindergarten. And then when Chiang Kai-shek's troops left and they shipped all the women and children down to Hong Kong, I went to King George VI School with all of the embassy children. And that lasted for a year. And then in another year, I was in Massachusetts, and I'd been kicked back to the 1st grade from the 2nd grade because I only knew how to sing God Save the King. Among other things. And then I had to skip from that grade to the 3rd grade on the following year. And then 2 years later, we were out in Ohio because my dad became a professor of Eastern religion at Kenyon College. And there was another school. And then all the professors decided, oh, their children should go to this other high school because that was better for getting into college. So then I changed schools again. And I can remember in one of the situations when I was in 6th grade, being placed into this class of total strangers and realizing I'm in the wrong class. They're talking about algebra. I've never seen algebra in my entire life. And I had to walk up and tell the teacher, I think I'm in the wrong place, and have everybody look at me. So all of a sudden, I just got a better understanding of where that came from. Now, that does not mean I'm going to use that and drag it around as an excuse never to go to a networking event. That's being a victim, right? But acknowledging where that came from and realizing that it comes from a small child who was constantly placed into these rooms with total strangers, not knowing if she's saying the right thing or doing the right thing, and terrified of looking stupid. And not doing, not knowing what all in Chinese we see, what the guiju is, and what the culture of that particular group is, and afraid that you're going to say or do something wrong. So be curious about those challenges, and be willing to look deeply in them. It doesn't mean you have to drag out all these reasons why you can't do something, but I think sometimes it helps just to stop and welcome them and let them in and let them be seen and let the fears be known, because that's what they're asking for. They are the small children who are asking for acceptance, and I think it's important for us to do that. So, acceptance. This is what's really cool, is look at all those heroes that we worship. Do you think they were being, thought that they were being, have you ever heard of a hero who said, yes, I was being a hero. I went out and I saved this person from this situation. I knew exactly. No. In fact, if you ask most heroes when they are interviewed after the thing where they saved somebody or they did something remarkable, they'll say, well, I wasn't a hero at all. I just did what was right in front of me. I just did what I had to do. But in our all or nothing society, somehow we tend to have it the other way around. That somehow, because we're on a hero's journey, we should be able to be like heroes. Am I the only one who thinks like this?
No.
And I think that's why I liked it when Thich Nhat Hanh, when I read one of his first books called Pieces Every Step. He said, dear one, to his fears and so on, dear one, I am here for you. I know you are here, and I'm going to take good care of you. The neatest thing about this, and this happened for me literally this week, is that I got the idea, I finally got a really great idea from Mike Dooley again. And he said, just take your timid little self-doubting self out and do the thing. And I realized, oh my God, for me it means TTSS. Tiny, timid, self-doubting steps. I do not have to be a hero. I can take tiny steps. They can be full of self-doubt. That's okay. They can be timid little steps. I just have to keep taking tiny, timid, self-doubting little steps, and I'm going to be just fine. I don't have to be some superwoman at this particular point in my life. I just have to do the next thing that's up for me. And I think that's something that we all need to remember. Whether it's a health crisis, whether it's a job situation, relationships, maybe you don't have the perfect answer right now. Maybe you don't have the perfect thing to say, the perfect thing to do. Let that be okay. Take your tiny, timid, self-doubting little step forward in the relationship toward your healing, toward whatever the challenge is, because that is the next step in your hero's journey. So I decided just to bring along all my little frightened children with me, even when I go networking. And I think that's something that we all need to hear. Somehow it took a certain amount of pressure off to realize I don't have to be heroic. I don't have to have the perfect thing. In fact, I could just bumble in there because everybody else in there is probably bumbling around too, wondering, well, what to say. I don't want to sound too salesy, and I want to be interested in people, and oh, is there anybody I can even talk to? Because they're all talking to each other, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right, so be curious about these challenges. Accept them, embrace them. You do not have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect answers. And finally, the one thing is, it's easy to be full of faith when we're inspired with beautiful songs here and with quirky little inspirational moments as we were earlier today. You know, but it's about being inspired and being in spirit when we're away from this environment, when we're in the midst of facing the challenges. It's about being in spirit and realizing that spirit is expressing through us as us. And that's what's the most important thing to do. So take all our little scared children with us and come on. It's going to be okay. And do it. As I say, I no longer am I'm giving myself permission to no longer have to walk in knowing that I have the perfect things to say. So, with that, just look at your coming week. What are you going to do differently this week? What is the next step on your hero's journey? Because each one of us are heroes. Thank you.